When I told a few people you're coming on the podcast, everyone's like, well, you got to ask them the mandatory cyclocross questions that we all want to know the answers to. Like, everyone wants to know tire choice, everyone wants to know tire pressure, everyone wants to know skills, trails.
Sure.
So I feel like we need to do that service to rattle through some of these.
Yeah.
How do we figure out tire choices? Like, because it does feel like a minefield for a lot of newbies starting.
Yeah.
It's just so overwhelmed with tire widths, different tread patterns.
You only need 2 tires. You need, and they should be, so there's like different levels, but if you've got, if you're in Europe, you do yourself a lot of good to have the tubular tires. It's a pain in the butt, but basically like four sets of wheels and 1 set of mud tires and 1 set of traditional Griffo tires would put you in a position with 2 bikes that you could, quote, win any race that you lined up to. It's an investment, 4 pairs of wheels. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
This is an investment. So I guess the alternative to that would be like, if you want to go tubeless, where you're going to be kind of off the back already to start or on the wrong foot is that you just won't be able to go as low in the pressure. The ride quality will not be as good. So if you're like, okay, hey, Jeremy, I can't do 4 sets of tires. I'm already out on that. I can't do 4, I can't do 4 sets of wheels, and I can't buy, $400 worth of tubulars, or sorry, $800 worth of tubulars, because you got 2 sets, 2, 4, 6, 8 tires that you're going to need, plus a spare. So you're into it for $1,000 of tires, then you're into it for whatever, $800 a wheel set or something like that. This is expensive.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's out. Then you're like, okay, you get 2 sets of wheels and you get 2 bikes. Each set has them. And then you do, a pair of tubeless tires, and you get a pair of Griffos that is like a, diamond tread, half moon, chevron pattern. Yeah. It's a very traditional tire. 80% of the races you can race those and do well in, because that tire does well in most conditions. You don't need more than that for cyclocross. And then, after that, if you say like, hey, okay, but here you're going to have a lot of mud, especially in Ireland and Europe, you have a lot of mud. Then you get like a very, a tall knobby tire, like any of the mud tires that will do. But the goal is that the tires have really high lugs, and that when they hit road sections or sections that are pavement or whatever, or, concrete or whatever, that those tires, the knobs on them move when they get onto the road, and then they fling the mud.
I was about to say, so they clear the mud.
They clear the mud, but then the thing that also happens is that the bike gets super muddy. But then you need to have someone in the pit to wash the bike, because yes, the tires, throw the mud off and clear themselves so that they can then get traction again. But they also builds up on the bike really heavily. And so kind of between the two of those things, you're like, all right, well, but you can't win without a mud tire. If it's a muddy race, you can't win without the muddy. And then it's all about pressure. And the thing that you realize that the Europeans got right early on was the tubulars. And the reason that the tubulars are so insane is because you can run them at such extraordinarily low tire pressure. You can get so much traction from them, because the mud's always moving under you. And the lower the pressure, then you probably can't see my hand, but the more the tire's moving and molding to the ground. And so you just get this kind of feeling where you can also ride on the rim when you need to. You can just hit the back part of the saddle, make that tire like really dig in to just put the power down on the pedals at the exact moment, and you can just get it to be like, no, F it. Like, we're going to get traction now because I need it. Yeah. And I'm willing to put this tire kind of on the rim so that it's just like, you get that same tire. It's like the tires make everything in cyclocross, because that's all you've got. You don't have suspension, right? You don't have a lot to work with. And there's so much nuance because there's so little tire on the ground. But the wider the tire patch, which is limited in UCI racing in particular, it's 33, right? When you get to that 33 mark, then the only thing that's going to widen it out really is going to be lower tire pressure. The thing that's going to give you more traction is going to be tire pressure. And the only other thing you can do is really lower your cadence. I always describe it as like being on a motorcycle, like a two-stroke dirt bike, right? Where you've got it like high in the first gear. Do you know what I mean? Where you go, right? And you're just going to wheel out. You're going to brake. Your tire's going to brake. But if you do it and you get it really low and you start out in second gear and you're like, right, you're going to get more traction.
Yeah.
And so when you start to think about how do I go into this muddy section or whatever, and you see the biggest riders pushing this freaking massive gear. I mean, Van Aert, if you go back to how he rides super low cadence, right? That's cyclocross for sure. If you know how to put pressure down and you know how to do it at a low cadence, you know how to keep the tires, contact patch on the ground. You understand kind of the way that a tubular rides, and you also understand kind of the line that's going to give you the most traction is always going to be on the greenest grass, right? Then you're already light years ahead of someone that's coming into it that's going to burn the line in. We call it ride like pin to pin, where they ride around an obstacle, but they ride to the pin and then they ride to the next pin.
Yeah.
That's not the way you see a top rider ride. You see them go wide, you see them go long. They take a longer line to get more traction, and it's faster. Yeah. So but it defies the way that people think. It's like, oh, I got to go through this. But when you go into a section, you go to the pin, you have to scrub all.
It's like they're carrying speed all the way through the course. Better,
way better. And the thing that I realized at one point, I remember doing this race where I was close to the front group. It was one of my better World Cup finishes, and it was in the Czech Republic. It was in Tabor, and I was dangling on the front group. And I remember Sven Nys broke his chain, and then he went to the pits, so he had to run a bit. He come out of the front group, but I was like maybe 5th, 6th, 7th, something like this, and he come back to me. And he was riding back through, like he had lost the 30 seconds, and then he got the new bike with the broken chain, and then he went back was going back to the front group. But I had an opportunity to ride his wheel at race pace,
like the best apprenticeship you'll ever do,
a super fast race, and he outrode me, he out cornered me, he out tractioned me, and I remember thinking like, shit, it's not because the power output I think I actually did have. I think I actually had enough power to ride with them. I was doing insane numbers at that time, like really, but some of my best. And so I wasn't totally surprised that I made the group because the power output was there, but he out technically rode me. Yeah. And I remember just being like, man, every single day from here on out that it's raining or that I have the chance to train off-road, I'm going to go do that because if the power isn't the problem, but the technique is the problem, I can actually fix that. So it really pushed me on. So I know that's a weird way to get to. There's so much nuance in the tires and in the selection, and it does really pay in cyclocross to have a great pair of tubulars. And if I were making one suggestion, I'd say if you can only get one set of tubulars, get a pair of either FMBs or Dugast, their traditional tire with the chevron pattern. Have one pair, and for many of the races, you'll be good to go, and you'll just be at such an advantage to have a nice pair of tubular tires. So just buy one, and then make all your other wheels tubeless. And
we are so excited to announce that we are partnering with Whoop. Whoop are changing the game when it comes to wearable technology and health monitoring. Whoop is a wearable health and fitness coach that provides you with feedback and actionable insights into your sleep, your recovery, your training, your stress, and your overall health. Sarah and I have been using Whoop for years, and we love the insights it provides into our body's inner workings. It really gives us a look under the hood. And you're going to see Mathieu van der Poel, Richard Carapaz, and other elite level cyclists wearing Whoop, but it isn't just for those superstars. All the data is personalized to your unique physiology and fitness levels. If you're interested in taking control of your health and your fitness so that you can excel in all aspects of your life, you have to go and check out Whoop. Go to the URL now, which is join.whoop.com/roadman. I'm going to pop that in the description below, and you're going to get a free month's access to Whoop membership on me. I promise you won't regret it.